action. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
And we will resist until this does not happen again.
The Zimmer News Team.
3/4 of American STEM students can't find employment after college.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
We target groups because they express statements and engage in activities that demean and vilify.
So you brought up LGBTQ groups a second ago.
Roy.
So you brought up LGBT groups a minute ago. So you think there's a bunch of Islamic groups that are pro-LGBTQ? Is that the position of the SPLC? I just want to make sure the record is reflecting that.
Well, that was Chip Roy, Congressman Chip Roy, with the interim president of the Southern Poverty Law Center. That was, let's just say, he was being grilled to a toasty well done yesterday in the House Judiciary hearings. We'll see what Jennifer Bukowski in for Stephanie Bell has to say about that. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is pickleball day, clearly, in Columbia. You can see that. She's all adorned in her pickleball regalia today, holding forth. And I'm Randy Tobler. John Marsh there, and Drake Whitman as well. The SPLC was center ring, focus, and these guys and gals were laser focused on destroying this guy's hypocrisy and how they're so selective. And it's funny how only conservative and our traditional values and our religiously oriented groups, Jennifer, are the hate groups. They're the only hate groups in America,
That's
apparently.
just a coincidence, Randy. Is it a coincidence? When were they paying people to infiltrate those groups? No. And paying them to have extra rallies and to spread materials. Isn't that a coinkydink? No, they only paid the Klan to have insiders to start new chapters and to keep the thing going. It's unbelievable.
And one of the witnesses there was Martin Luther King's niece, Alveda King, and she's been quite a voice for a black woman who certainly saw more than her share of Jim Crow and could just be a victim and could be living the past. She chooses not to. She chooses to move forward. She chooses to live in a more perfect union, which we have become. And this is a little bit of just one of her statements.
Manufactured racial tension. We do not need more labels with the sole intention to drive us apart.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, there you go. I mean, she's saying, enough already. Stop it. Let's move forward.
Yeah. They're talking about the dream of Martin Luther King to be judged by the content of your skin.
Yeah.
Rather than the color.
The content of your character.
Content of your character. Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry. It's 6:11 a.m. I'll wake up here in just a minute. But
Now,
I think it was good. And she was getting a lot of flack, including from Jasmine Crockett.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jasmine Crockett uses her whole time to basically yell at her, say that she's not part of the King family truly, that other people like Dr. Martin Luther King's children, they know his message. She doesn't. And then she has the audacity to storm out of the room before
I didn't see
Dr.
that.
King got a chance to respond.
Really?
Talk about a lack of class.
She walked out
You're
on
going
her.
to dish it out, and then you can't take it and give her the respect to at least listen to her response. She refused to let her have a question, but she knew that the Republicans were going to give her their time in the very next question to respond because she went on a tirade against Dr. King.
You saw that the other day when that representative from L.A., when Marco Rubio was testifying, and she got all worked up about lying about his shoes and how they were too big, and he lied, that Trump gave him. And after some back and forth, she just walked out, yelling and screaming as she's walking out. And he called
she's
her
out
on
of Congress now.
Yeah.
So she's just going to, I guess, get some sound bites on TV and misbehave, but she wasn't behaving that well to begin with.
Looking at the Southern Poverty Law Center, I think there'll probably be some longtime listeners who might recognize them for singling out the Christian identity movement. And down in South Missouri, I think our Southwest Missouri listeners will remember a number of years ago, we tracked the Covenant, the Arm, and the Sword of the Lord group, which they were involved in, I think, some killings, and it was
really wow.
Yeah, boy, and it was bad. They were camped out in a big complex, sort of on the Missouri-Arkansas border down near Pontiac, Missouri. Then we watched the SLPC sort of transition past the KKK era and all that, and ended up as what they are now. And they're a far cry from what they started out as.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, you don't have a single Islamist group on there when there are Islamists that are literally calling for eradicating every Jew from the river to the sea. Like, a ton of them.
Yeah.
Like, and that, they openly talk about killing Jewish people. None of them made your list. What are y'all doing?
Well, no, that's because they're trying to eliminate and exterminate the right group of people, don't you know? I mean, that's as long as you only want to exterminate one group of people, you're not a hate group. I mean, it is so on its face absurd, and yet they have donors, they have support, they have large amount of support among the Democrat Party.
Yeah, and they got a bulk of money during, especially 2020. A lot of these type of groups got a ton of corporate money with all these corporations wanting to be like, no, not us. We're not racist after the George Floyd thing.
Now, Jennifer, I know being a master wordsmith, being an attorney and now a radio talk show host and with your own show, and I just want you to think of maybe if I have the definition wrong on a word that I'm going to bring up after I play this little clip of Representative Jim Jordan at the hearing.
This SPLC employee who was supposed to be dismantling hate groups with the Intelligence Project was dating the field source that they were paying, and in fact, they had a joint bank account.
Would that be, I looked up and I sometimes I look up the definition and I backtrack into the word. And I looked up the definition of, so when someone is dating someone that is a front person for the group that the person is supposed to be, outing, is that called a honeypot? Isn't that called a honeypot?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, basically, I think that's what that is. When you have, like, the old James Bond, that you put in the...
the honeypots, the person doesn't know that they're a spy. These people are dating even though one's supposedly a white supremacist.
Well, maybe not, but maybe not. Well, that's right. It's not quite a honeypot. Have you ever seen anything like this in your life? I mean, this is so corrupt and so sordid and so unseemly. It just is unbelievable.
The only thing I can think that's kind of equivalent is some of these, when the feds or different units of cops are just blatantly, in my opinion, it's so hard to make an entrapment defense. Yeah. But they are getting people that would not have done anything to do stuff and come up with ideas for crimes. And, the Fednapping of Gretchen Whitlis up there in Michigan, just different things like that. Even some of the things where it's actually adult men saying, and then they're kind of confusingly saying whether or not they're 16 years old, those kind of things. Sometimes those things feel a little ick to me. But to actually, so they're creating more like child enticement amongst people who I don't think necessarily would have, or kidnapping a governor who wouldn't have come up with that idea. But no, this is just beyond the pale because it's greed, Randy. That's what this is about. They want to keep these donors going, so they need to have examples listed on their website of, look at this one bad guy. And one of the bad guys in the indictment, the superseding indictment, asked them at one point to tone down how bad they were vilifying him on their page because it was hurting him in his recruiting efforts to bring new people into the movement. He's like, you're making me sound too evil and bad. Can you tone it down a little bit and I'll have a better chance of getting more people in the Aryans of whatever, national Aryan.
Well-rounded supremacists.
Now, they would argue that for the greater good, and we do inform the DOJ. I think there was testimony or somewhere
that's it.
That they go and they were meeting every quarter with the deputy, attorney general or something. Okay. And so they were arguing, well, no, we just had moles. We were just planting moles. But they were doing more than that.
Yeah.
They were actually materially supporting these groups by virtue of supporting the moles and not telling the donors some of their MO, right? Wasn't that part of the indictment, that they just weren't informing the donors the full scope of exactly what they were doing? Now, will that legally hold water? I mean,
we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I don't think it's clear cut. There's not been a case like this. So there's not a lot of precedent for this. I can't think of another case quite like it. But I do think that it's not just a mole. When you have a guy coming to you saying he wants out and he's one of the leaders nationwide of the organization, and instead you pay him to stay in for years to help build more chapters, you are perpetuating hate.
Yeah.
And that's why Dr. King was there yesterday calling that out. Like, this is not okay.
Yeah. I mean,
So I don't know if criminally they're actually the organization that's been indicted, if those charges will be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But what they're doing, I think, is obvious to anyone with common sense. It's not right.
Yeah. It would almost be as though like a doctor who's a real lefty anti-pharma, well, maybe some of the right are anti-pharma, but someone who wants to destroy pharma would maybe give a bunch of patients their medicine with known side effects, not tell them about it, and then just to destroy the reputation. It's sordid.
A dentist that puts little holes in your teeth so you come back with worse cavities.
Right. Yeah,
you need to keep paying them and paying them to fix your teeth because when you come in, they hurt your teeth more.
Yeah.
It's something like that. It's that kind of mentality.
Yeah. As opposed to groups like Veritas and stuff where all they're doing is just interviewing. They're just sitting and having a drink with someone, right? I mean, I think those are a distinction, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. They're different conceptually, that's a little bit similar in that.
It's the analogy I was trying to think of as a defense for SPLC.
Vaping. Yeah, they're baiting.
Yeah.
That's one where they have hot people going on dates with people in D.C. And it's like, hey.
You never get to see the person that's wearing the body cam, the little lapel cam. I want to see, because they've got these guys, usually guys, right, that are part of the administration.
So they must have a couple of
And I want to know, are these real hotties or I don't know?
Oh, for sure. There's no question. The one video is like, I can't believe you're real. He's like salivating over the girl. Oh, there's so much catfishing going on in the internet, and here you are, and you're so...
Well, that's a honeypot, right?
Yeah. Like, he's like, oh, you really are that beautiful. It was out of his league, buddy.
Well, I got to thinking the other day about this closed borders is actually turning around to be an unfortunate, well-done job by Donald Trump that isn't going to be much of an issue in the midterms, So I got to thinking, well, what's been going on the immigration front? We haven't heard much. The ICE raids are not anymore existing. The deportation, quote, raids, all of the very visible ICE and CBP people in the streets. So we connected with the Center for Immigration Studies, and their executive director, Mark Krikorian, will be with us at 7:08 because he testified in Congress yesterday.
Oh, that's a great
And talked about some of the ravages, some of the absolute damage that was done during the Biden administration, urging Congress to rein in some of these programs that were abused by Biden and seeing, what we can do. And we'll talk about other things being done behind the scenes to try to clean up the mess in aisle immigration. We don't do it either. It's aisle I immigration. And John will come back with the Daily DC Rundown in just a few. You're listening to Wake Up Missouri. I'm Randy Tobler, Jen Bukowski in for Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, and Drake Whitman.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
understand that this is not about me at all. This is a movement about us.
Time for the Daily DC Rundown with John Marsh.
Graham Plattner, the progressive left, and the president appear to be the big winner in the high-profile primaries in Maine and South Carolina. Plattner, the oyster farmer and combat vet who's been facing plenty of incoming fire, cruised to the Democratic nomination in left-leaning Maine. He'll now face longtime moderate Republican Senator Susan Collins. Meanwhile, in solidly red South Carolina, Trump-backed Senator Lindsey Graham won a majority of the vote in the GOP primary and will avoid a runoff. And the candidate the president endorsed in that state's Republican gubernatorial primary, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Avett, finished on top of a crowded field and will advance to a runoff election against longtime South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. Republican Steve Hilton, the former Fox News host and advisor to British Prime Minister David Cameron, advances on to November's general election in the race to become California's next governor. International scene, U.S. Central Command said it conducted self-defense strikes on Iran in response to the downing of that Apache helicopter on Monday. President said the Iranians had shot down the helicopter that crashed near the Strait of Hormuz. Two-man crew was uninjured. Iran responded to the strikes with drone and missile attacks, targeting military bases in Jordan, Bahrain, and Kuwait.
You know what's interesting is Nancy Mace, according to my tally report here, said that she came in dead last in that governor race, a sitting congresswoman.
Yeah.
How the heck does
not
that
just
happen?
a sitting congresswoman, but one that you and I know her name.
Prominent, right?
Yeah, national profile. She must not be very well liked statewide within her state.
How do you go from that kind of name recognition and prominence and visibility to dead last in the governor race? I mean, there's something that's odd. There's something going on in the electorate. The fact that Graham Plattner is so popular, I mean, he's, what was it, 78%? I mean, he just absolutely.
But I think he's not going to win Senate. Collins is going to beat him.
Collins is looking and sounding pretty feeble. I don't know. I think change is in the air. People are voting for change, and the populism is.
Cornyn found that out the hard way.
Yeah, populism is on steroids. It really is. I mean, this guy is just—he might as well be communist. I just feel that there's a big tsunami coming. And I'm not saying that's necessarily going to only impact Republicans. I think it's going to impact some Democrats, too, as we saw in the Plattner race. You've got the governor, granted, term limited, but the governor of Maine who just faded into nothingness. Now, granted, she had suspended her campaign, but a viable alternative when she says, hey, remember me, when everything comes out last week about his sexting and his escapades and everything, on top of the Nazi death camp, tattoo.
Getting physical with women, right? Wasn't he accused of mistreating women physically?
Yeah, barricading one of them in the bedroom or bathroom or something. I mean, just crazy. Well, Carmelo Anthony was sentenced to 35 years. We happen to have a criminal defense attorney sitting alongside us here, so I thought we ought to talk about that case. And
I think just local news is the most
Anthony to 35 years behind bars after finding him guilty of murder. I'm told that he is eligible for parole after he serves half his time. The jury had the option to give him as much as 99 years behind bars. But again, they have...
Wow. Rapid fire verdict and then sentencing of Carmelo Anthony in this stabbing over a dispute over him being in another team's tent on a track and field event. And this thing gained national attention. Protesters outside were playing the race card. He had over $600,000 in donations, Jennifer. Jen's in for Stephanie. And I'm just wondering, a lot of people have looked at this and said, boy, the defense really, had a weak defense, They both sides said it wasn't about race. Those supporting Carmelo said it was about race. This is an interesting happenstance. On the first thing, procedurally, I was really surprised. I'm used on these high-profile cases. It goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks. Then the jury's out for 4 or 5 days. Then the sentencing is delayed for 3 months. This happened like bang, bang, bang.
And that's the way we do it here in Missouri. Like both of my murder trials, there were jury trials I'm first chairing. We pick the jury the week before from another county. We bring them in. We go Monday through Saturday. They were in court on a Saturday. I'm like, that's Texas. That's how it's done. And then I've had numerous cases, and one high profile one I can think of off the top of my head, you go straight into sentencing.
Yeah.
Ryan Ferguson, that verdict came back like after dinner, I think, and they went straight into the sentencing phase with Bill Ferguson testifying on his son's behalf, asking for the jury to take mercy on his son. Same with Carmelo Anthony's mother. After that verdict came in, she was the only witness called by the defense to the stand to beg the jury for some mercy on her son as well. So, yeah, I don't understand these other states. I'm the opposite, Randy. I've always been mystified. How can these other states have 9-month jury trials? These jurors have jobs. They can't be gone from their jobs for 9 months.
Right. Well, that's what you wonder about. I mean, everyone lives in mortal fear of being called to a murder trial, high-profile trial, because, oh, my God, I'm going to lose half a year's income.
Yeah, but you won't hear in Missouri, and apparently not in Texas either.
Well, in a way, I mean, I'm glad to hear that about Missouri, because that comports with what I think isn't there something in somewhere that it's written, or our expectation is you're going to have a speedy trial, right? I mean, the defendant and the victims deserve that, right, for justice to happen.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting. This is Collin County there in Arizona, and are they sending a message with this kind of are the jurors sending a message that, hey, enough of this? We cannot have impulsive, reactive behavior just because I think you disrespected me or you offended me. And the first thing I do, instead of having a verbal fight or a fisticuffs fight, no, I think I'll pull out a knife or a gun and I'll out you. I mean, or worse, like we saw the other day. You were saying, Drake, and you were talking about a gang of people ganging up on people just because of who you're rooting for, whether it's the Knicks or the Spurs.
Yeah, that gang, like you see these videos of mobs attacking a person, and that's something that's poisonous within our culture right now that you see far too much of. But he only got 35 years, so that they did take some mercy on him.
Could have had up to 99 because it was first-degree murder.
Yeah. So, and he'll be eligible for parole after 17. Do I think he'll get out on charges like this? The first eligibility that he has, only if he is like perfect in prison. Will that even be possible, I would say. But, I mean, I don't practice down in Texas, so maybe I could be wrong. But he's a young man. He was 17 when this happened, so he'll be mid-30s when he's eligible for parole. He might be able to get out and have a family, and Austin Metcalf never will. And so that's really a tragic set of circumstances. And in Missouri, for first-degree murder, the only punishments available are life without parole or death in prison. So I need to look up, does Texas have something above first-degree murder, like capital murder or something, where you can only get life without parole or death? And they didn't charge him with that.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing procedurally is during the sentencing phase, they were able to decide whether or not sudden passion played any role. In Missouri, we have to do that during the guilt phase. So they have to decide what you're going to find him guilty of, and if it's going to be, reduced to a voluntary manslaughter as opposed to or second degree or first degree murder.
Well, that's what I wondered. And by the way, I said Arizona's Texas. how is it that it would be a first-degree murder? It doesn't that to me, because I think you've said it, you've talked about it. I thought first-degree murder meant you had to have planned it and thought about it. To be fair, it sounded like sort of a spur of the moment. Yeah, maybe there was an animus there, and they'd had some kind of difference or whatever. But I don't know. Where was the evidence presented? I didn't see anything in the reporting that there was some kind of posting or they'd had previous, spats. Maybe they had. I don't know. But so it's a different thing. Different definition of first-degree murder? No?
Okay, yeah. So I did think this is right. I just checked. They do have a capital murder that's above first-degree murder. They don't use first-degree murder like most states do, including Missouri, where that's the top one.
I see. Okay.
So I guess they didn't end up charging him with capital murder.
Which would be the premeditated one.
Yeah.
Down in Texas.
It's 5 to 99 years.
Yeah.
I go back to what Jen said earlier about these like 6 and 8 and 9 week trials. Who out there, especially in Missouri, has time to serve on a jury at what is it, $15-18 a day?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I think those ones dragging those trials out, I feel like they might not have the jurors there all day, every day like we do, but we get it done. Like, we go straight through and we go into the evening and we try to get them done as quickly as we can.
Well, it's my impression that what's going on out there in Utah with the Tyler Robinson thing, they've been having hearings after hearings after hearings for months now about should we have a camera in the courtroom for the hearing to discuss if we're going to have a camera in the courtroom for the hearing to discuss if we're going to have a trial. Now, is that the kind of stuff that often predates what you're talking about, the speedy trial? The pretrial stuff can go on for months and months and months?
Well, heck, Jen, what about 8 months in the OJ trial?
Yeah, that was the trial. Yeah, and they had plenty of pretrial hearings before that, too. Missouri, we do have tons of pretrial hearings, but we are much more liberal, I guess is a dangerous word to use in this audience, but liberal about allowing cameras in the courtroom, which is why we have so many of these crime shows end up on murder cases because they can get their cameras in. But it's not atypical. Like one case, I had 50 motion in limines where I'm trying to exclude different arguments or language be used by the prosecutor during my case.
Yep. I was just glad to see it, and I'm just glad to see this young man brought to account
and not allowed out in the public.
Yep.
Because if you have that hot-headed of a temper, what other trouble are you going to get up to?
I heard a little bit of a Matt Walsh podcast the other day from the Daily Wire. The whole thing was on. He says, "What is it?" And he gave example after example after example of either groups of young black males or, in this case, an isolated single black male. He says his theory when he was submitting that this is a problem in the black culture, in the young black male culture, that if you disrespect me, and that could be I say I don't like your bling, or I don't like your cell phone, or I want your cell phone, anything. This was what he was maintaining. It seems to, as opposed to other groups of young people, the first reaction, the first thing is to go to violence, to physical harm, to personal assault, rather than, in the old days, on the playground, I was never part of one. I ran from a couple of them, but, if we get into a spat, we'd yell and scream, and sometimes guys would hit one another or wrestle, but they didn't pull out guns and knives. There's something that's changed. What has become permissive about that kind of a reactivity?
Jump each other. Yeah. That seems to be like, now your honor's besmirched, you have to start wailing on someone, and your friends have to too. And it does seem to be more prevalent among black kids.
And you hate to see that. Is it because of the erosion of the family? Is it the lack of a authoritative male that, moms have a way of laying down the law, and being, but they're not the same way as dad laying down the law. I think at least in my family, that's that way. And I think generally most people would say, boy, if dad crosses his arms and stands in the doorway and says, "You got in trouble in school," and he takes off his belt, you got a problem coming, right? And is that kind of stuff happening? I don't know. And
that kind of stuff happens a lot in the black community where they use corporal punishment. And I think that they make jokes about it, but that makes kids more violent, I think.
Didn't make me more violent.
Well, the studies have shown that can make people more violent.
Well, I
as
understand,
adults.
but I use that by way of saying, and by the same token, a father taking a son aside and saying, "Look, this is not the way to act." And I think many people would say that's the way their dads treated them as well. You know?
Remember what Columbia Police Chief Joe Schluty told us immediately after them upping their patrols after hours in downtown Columbia? She said the officers who dealt with the underage younger kids were shocked at the number of them who were carrying,
yes,
who were armed.
Remember, they apprehended so many guns.
And she was talking about underage kids.
That's right. I remember that. Yes, it was a shocking number of guns that were taken from young people. Right.
Yeah, and their parents are buying them for them.
Well, or is it their gang leaders? I don't know. Or is the gang leaders teaching them how to steal it out of the cars?
Yeah.
Right. I don't. Yeah. Where are they getting these guns? It's really
well. If you're going to be wandering around and the kids that don't like you have guns, you're going to want a gun too, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's where it all goes. And I think it really started with Katrina. We had a whole group of displaced young people, and they carried guns. So then the Columbia boys felt like they needed guns too.
Yeah. Well, it's a sad thing because young men full of testosterone and full of very little judgment, yet still trying to learn their way in life, and it's a bad combo. Then if they get cultural influence that really results in this kind of violence that snuffs out a life, it's just sad to see. This is the stick that I'm glad to see. And Texas delivered the stick to say, and a clear message, hey, enough carrots, enough programs. We've got all the programs and the after school this and the this club and the that club. That's all fine and dandy. But if you decide to take a different path, you're going to be made accountable swiftly, certainly, and you could argue severely. So it's a chapter in the books. When we come back, more information about alcohol effect on you and long-term impact on your life on Make Missouri Healthy Again.
It's Wake Up
In Make Missouri Healthy Again, as the summertime rolls on and on, I don't want to be the Grim Reaper putting, dousing the beautiful fires of a nice night out with your friends or a day on the lake and having a beer or two. But I do want to remind you that as a regular habit, one after another study, and the data is becoming clear, that I think some of the presumption that, a couple of drinks every day is okay. That's called moderate drinking, and that's acceptable, and it's okay. And I think we're finding out more and more that when it comes to alcohol, probably, net, less is more. I mean, I think that's the headline of the message.
Yeah, not good news.
There was a study. Out that actually this guy was taken out of the administration. This is called the Alcohol Intake and Health Study. Is one of two reports commissioned during the Biden administration to inform an update to the U.S. dietary guidelines. Now, they were recently updated and they emphasized protein and healthy fats and, really sort of turned the pyramid on its head. But the second report was a panel appointed by the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. That report suggested that moderate drinking, up to 2 drinks a day for men, 1 for women, was healthier than not drinking at all. Although, women, listen up, moderate drinking was also consistently, drinking is linked to a higher breast cancer risk. Doesn't mean if you have a cocktail before dinner now and then that you're going to get breast cancer, but it just another one that's sort of along with overweight and other things, of course, family history can impact that. But it turned out that some of the panelists behind that report had financial ties to the alcohol industry. Interestingly, the second report, that one that said up to 2 drinks a day was okay, was more palatable to the alcohol industry. Well, when the Trump administration issued the new dietary guidelines, they advised Americans to drink less, but omitted any daily limits, sort of paying homage to the 2 drink a day report. What's interesting is this guy that commissioned and drove this more conservative report in terms of how much you should be drinking. He was he was eliminated as part of the downsizing after during Doge. Isn't that curious? That report has now come out and said that, and this relied exclusively on U.S. health data, and it looked at the relationships between average alcohol consumption and the risk of disease or death from causes directly related to drinking. Women who had 1 drink a day were more likely to die of liver cancer or breast cancer than women who didn't drink. And both men and women were at increased risk of dying from liver cirrhosis, oral and esophageal cancers, and injuries. And it was dose related. The more the daily drinking was, the higher that risk. And we're seeing
There's so much cancer.
We're seeing an onslaught
of saying it's cancer risk. So is drinking the new smoking? Like, you got to quit drinking to avoid the cancer?
Look, alcohol's a poison. It's a poison. There's no other way. It is, if you looked at it in any other way. If the Martians that flying around in ththose UFOs they've been talking around came down and said, we've been surveying you for poisons. Arsenic is a poison and smoking is a poison. And yes, alcohol. It's a metabolic poison. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm not a teetotaler, okay? But what I'm saying is, I think that it just should caution us that even consuming 1 drink a day may connote a little higher risk. Now, so this means if you have a high breast cancer risk, certainly don't binge drink. Don't make it a habit of having 2 or 3 drinks a night. It's only going to increase your risk. If you're going to have a cocktail, why spend the money and the metabolic and cancer and life risk of using an alcohol gin? Why not use a non-alcoholic mix if that's what you're going to do? Try that,
How am I supposed to produce a show with you and not go home and not drink, Randy? Come on.
I'm just telling you, the data is more and more suggesting that if you want to live long and healthy and prosper, dial down the drinking, and I think it will serve you well. That's Make Missouri Healthy Again today.
We have good numbers. The markets ought to go up, not go down. And that's the way you build greatness. You build greatness that way.
It's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
And we will resist until this does not happen again.
The Zimmer News Team.
3/4 of American STEM students can't find employment after college.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Abuse of our immigration system is widespread. Criticism often focuses on fraud, and there's certainly plenty of that. But arguably more alarming and certainly more amenable to congressional action is when the executive branch itself is engaging in abuse of the immigration system.
Well, that was our guest this hour on Wake Up Missouri, and his name is Mark Krikorian. He's the executive director at the Center for Immigration Studies, my go-to authority for all things immigration. And that was his testimony yesterday, the beginning of it, in front of a task force on defending constitutional rights and exposing institutional abuses with the U.S. House. And Mark, it's a pleasure and a privilege to have you on. Thanks for being on, and thanks for that out-of-the-park testimony yesterday.
Appreciate it. When I heard that, I was like, wow, who is that voice? Who's that person?
Well, you have been a loud and clarion voice in favor of immigration reform and calling out the abuses. So let's talk about the abuses, the fraud, the seed. I think we're learning on the heels of all of the potential for abuse in Leering centers in Minnesota and hospice that don't exist in L.A. So it's the basic programs and their flaws and their vulnerabilities that then result in people abusing them, right? I mean, this is just another domain in the immigration realm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's an intersection. All of those stories are intersection of immigration with various, other welfare state type programs. And the thing I think people don't get is that, look, there's plenty of fraud. There's bad guys everywhere, all that stuff. It's not a uniquely immigrant thing. But especially with people from some of these really less developed backward places, they have a very kind of clan-oriented view of what's right and wrong. And so if you're from some Somali clan and there's an opportunity to rip off the American taxpayer with this Leering Center thing or other things, that's not even wrong in your perspective, because it's wrong not to benefit your clan at the expense of other people.
Wow.
And so the problem, it's not that they're not committing. I mean, they should all be locked up and everybody who can be deported should be deported. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that it's not a surprise. This is what you get if you import people from clan-based societies. The problem here is not that they're terrorists, for instance. That's like the only thing we screen for. It's that they are a mismatch with the kind of post-clan individualist rule of law society that we have and would like to maintain.
Well, what could possibly go wrong when you bring people in from the other side of the world and they have an other side of the worldview? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? That's Mark Krikorian, the executive director of Center for Immigration Studies, just off of a great testimony in front of Congress yesterday. He joins us on Wake Up Missouri.
Mark, your testimony yesterday was really interesting because you talked about the shadow immigration system and how this is going on with the two main pillars being parole and temporary protected status. For listeners who don't live in immigration law, can you explain what this shadow immigration system is?
Sure. And, just to start, this is something the president's trying to dismantle, but Congress has to fix it so that, President AOC or President Gavin Newsom doesn't just start it up again. Mm-hmm. And so the point here is that there's something called immigration parole. It's not criminal justice parole. It's just the same word from French years ago. And what it is Congress giving the president a little bit of wiggle room on who he can let into the country, so that if somebody who is inadmissible under the law is not allowed to come in, but there's a medical emergency or we need to let him in to testify before a trial or something, the president can let somebody like that in and then take them back when they're done. The problem is that all presidents, frankly, back till Eisenhower, have used that as a mass tool to just let in people who they want to let in. And Biden, of course, is the one who dialed that up to 11 and let in almost 3 million people just with that vehicle.
Jeez.
In what's supposed to be a narrow emergency one-at-a-time power.
That's half the population of our state. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge number of people. And the other side, TPS, temporary protected status, as you can imagine, if you follow immigration law, there's nothing temporary about temporary protected status. And that is the power that Congress, again, is given for narrow particular uses. But presidents since 1990, when it was invented, have used it to let illegal aliens who are already here stay and get work permits.
So are you saying that this needs to be reined in or eliminated or what?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the TPS needs to just be eliminated. The excuse is, well, there's an earthquake in Ecuador or whatever, and we need to let everybody who's already here illegally from Ecuador stay because we can't send them home. And frankly, ICE can just say, well, we're going to hold off on deportations for 60 days and then take another look at it. They can do that now. It's just common sense. They don't need work permits for that. That's what TPS does. And that just needs to be eliminated. And parole needs to be limited to like a few thousand a year. You have to have a little bit of wiggle room in a big system, but you cannot allow the executive to get away with this kind of thing. And Trump isn't doing it, but Trump's not going to be president in 2.5 years.
Yep.
It's funny. Just yesterday and the day before, I wrote extensions of off-work excuses for patients who are recovering from various problems. Every month or so, I need to renew that extension. We review the validity of it, the criteria for that, and they either renew or not. Why not the same kind of application to these, quote, temporary status? I mean, if we're going to do it, if they've lost their home in Peru, is their home eternally lost? No. When it's rebuilt, get your butt back there. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, but the problem is the temporary protected status is good for from 6 to 18 months, depending on what the DHS secretary decides. But at the end of it, they just renew it all the time. Salvadorans have been here for 35 years
without a review and some review to see if it still needs to be in place. They just sort of automatically renew. Huh?
No, there's a review, but it's a phony baloney review, and they just come up with some kind of phony excuse to extend it.
That's Mark Krikorian, Executive Director of the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org. There's lots going on in the immigration world that is not on the headlines, not on the tube, but it's very important stuff, and they are right on top of it all the time.
Mark, we had Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt on with us just the other morning, talk to us about his scam act that he's introduced on the Hill to get the criminal players to the head of the list and get them out of the country. And one big issue on that is the denaturalization debate. How's that all factor in?
That's an important thing. Denaturalization is basically taking the citizenship away from an immigrant who became a naturalized citizen. Because when you become a citizen, if you're an immigrant, you're the same citizen as everybody else. The only thing you can't do is run for president. Everything else, you're just like an American. You are an American, and that's the way it should be. But if you lied or in some way committed fraud to become a citizen, then we can take it away from you. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially what Senator Schmidt's trying to do is kind of bolster that authority. Because, if somebody basically gave a fake name or they said they hadn't been convicted of murder in Upper Volta and it turns out they had, that's cut and dry. You can just strip their citizenship. But what about somebody who commits an Islamic terrorist act 2 years after they get citizenship? The point here, and this is what the legislation is trying to kind of bolster this concept, is that person obviously lied when he took the oath to defend the Constitution. Because, what did he mean it then? And then 18 months later decided, actually, no, I don't believe in the Constitution. I'm going to go and kill infidels. And so that's the point, is to kind of look back and make a more substantive decision that the person wasn't telling the truth when they swore the oath of loyalty to the United States. And
just last week, he wants it to go further to say that, hey, if you commit if you're convicted of Medicare fraud, of, the kind of fraud that we've seen, that ought to now be part of the criteria as well to broaden that. So, you got to behave in the first 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm not sure that will withstand judicial scrutiny. I don't know if the Supreme Court will go for that, but absolutely. And the most important thing for me is, how about we make sure we do a better job at the front end, so we don't have to strip people of citizenship. We just tell them, you're just not a good fit for here. Why don't you go back to Somalia?
That's a great point.
Mark, before a couple minutes here left, and before we leave you, I wanted to ask you about this. A judge the other day struck down the $100,000 H-1B visa fee that President Trump had proclaimed last fall, and I know Senator Schmidt has been all over this, saying, "Hey, we have the right. This country is not just a place for globalist corporate interests to hire people from a side and displace American workers because they can get cheap, skilled labor and technical people from all over the world." What's going on in that realm? Is this going to hold or not?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Senator Schmidt really has emerged as like one of the leaders in Washington on immigration. I did not expect it, but boy, is he really making waves. But the issue in the lawsuit is not whether Congress could say, this is the fee. They can do anything they want like that. I think the issue is whether the president can, but he'll win at the Supreme Court if it goes that far, because this isn't a fee for anybody getting an H-1B. It's an entry fee, and the president has authority, almost 100% authority, on placing conditions for people outside the country coming into the country. And that's what this is. So it's actually the $100,000 fee thing is, honestly, I'm not sure how much effect it's going to have in the long run, because it'll just be foreign students or other people who are already here who will then get H-1Bs, and they don't have to pay the fee.
I see.
I'm not against it. I'm just not sure in the long run it's going to make much difference, but I don't see any basis in the law for overturning it. So I think if the administration appeals this, I think eventually they will win.
All right. Well, that's just a little appetizer for the full entree of all the great stuff that you can learn about immigration, and really getting into the weeds from people that do their homework and have been there and done that in many cases, that are on the staff there at CIS.org. We thank you, Mark Krikorian, Executive Director of CIS. We appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. There's a lot of stuff that's a potential for abuse, and I'm glad that maybe Senator Schmidt and others can close some of these loopholes and keep our sovereign nation sovereign.
Yeah, start by turning the faucet off, not mopping the floor.
That's right. Immigration mess in aisle 5. Your smartphone is birth control. Next.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
following the chronicles of Drake's search for a mate and his dating escapades. And isn't it funny how the algorithm just serves you so well sometimes? All of a sudden, what pops up on, my various searchings through various rabbit holes, but a story that comes out of the National Bureau of Economic Research asking the question, is the iPhone birth control? Yeah, everyone's wondering, why are the U.S. fertility rates falling? They've fallen, almost 25% since, in a couple decades. And
I could totally see this.
Yeah.
Because, when I was growing up, my parents, they watch TV together. They watch, the news, and they go to bed together.
Mm-hmm.
iPhones as an individual activity. You're screening
Yes.
your own individual things.
Yes.
You're not having a routine of the day together.
Yep.
And if you aren't, then you're not available for each other at the same time of the day. And you're also not engaging with one another to where you might be, sparks flying or what have you. So, yeah, I think everyone is, kids, teenagers, the rates for them having sex have gone down too. For better, for worse.
Yeah.
But because everyone's off in their own little world online with their individual phone instead of gathered before the family TV.
I couldn't agree more. Now, this was an ingenious study. Until 2011, iPhones were available from a single U.S. cellular network, AT&T. So what they did was they looked at U.S. counties that had near universal AT&T coverage with those that had little or none during those years.
Oh, interesting.
What an interesting way to look at this.
Yeah.
Access to the iPhone correlated with reductions in births by 5 to 8% and by 3.2 to 6.6% at ages 20 to 24. And there were statistically significant but smaller declines among older women. So that was at ages, late teens and then older teens. So these were statistically significant. They said that iPhones aren't the sole cause, but it probably plays a sizable role.
So this is
wild?
2007. This is before you have Androids and all the smartphones are doing the same thing. Because now, it's not just iPhones, it's Androids, it's
And then they
Google
found, the decline in birth rates accelerated once smartphones became widely available.
Huh.
Well, what are you supposed to do all day if you can't doom scroll? I mean, make babies. That's the answer. So, it's pretty easy science here.
And I think we've talked about how it's been observed, present company excluded, that sometimes people who were raised in the iPhone and iPad and whatever generation sometimes have some social difficulties in just relating to people and talking and stuff. I know, and a lot of times when I try to communicate with late millennial and Gen Zs, I want to have a conversation. Hey, let's just call. Everything's got to be done digitally. That's the way they communicate.
Only because you called me on the toilet, Randy. That's why I didn't pick up your call yesterday. Is this what this is all about?
I'm supposed to get your potty schedule before I call?
This is too much information, guys. Come on.
I was going to say, be glad it wasn't a Zoom call.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I think it's good for kids to have to get a summer job. And so they have to be interfacing with people and out there interacting as an adult and learning those skills. Because, when they're on their phone doom scrolling all day, scrolling.
Don't they say the birth rate is way down for teens now, too?
Yeah. Women in their 40s have outpaced teenagers now.
Yeah. Well, many counties are wary of data centers, but not Montgomery, apparently. We'll be back. not going to say I don't use it. Well, you can't help but use it. Jen, you can't help but use it, right? If you do a Google search now, I guess you can turn off this option, but it seems to be the default option. The first thing that pops up is the AI summary.
Yep.
Right? John? Right? True?
Yep. Yeah.
It's super
Gemini
useful.
first thing.
Yeah. Okay. So we all love AI, but there seems to be sort of a NIMBY attitude, at least in Stone County and in Camdenton and in Columbia.
Not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard.
Yeah, I
That's
just
right. NIMBY.
recently learned that one.
You just recently learned it.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there you go. Well, they have that up in Martha's Vineyard, in places of Nantucket Cove. They don't want any windmills out there in Nantucket Cove. Because,
Or immigrants.
Yeah, or immigrants. Yeah. That's right. Ship them off to the Marine barracks, right?
Or conservatives.
Yeah. Not welcome sign here, right? No shoes, no shirt, no conservative. Get out.
No hablo inglés. Get out.
So Stone County has put a 1-month moratorium on data center, 1 year moratorium on data centers, as have Columbia and Camdenton, which of course are not counties but cities. But so Montgomery County, though, the commissioners there in Montgomery County, remember we talked about Wake Up Family a couple weeks ago, how about Google had announced that they're going to dump $15 billion, not million, $billion into a new Florence up in Montgomery County
That's
data
wild.
center. And
Yeah.
it's going to be air-cooled, not water-cooled, because there's always been concerns about water. Stephanie has presented evidence. I've presented counter-evidence that it's going to raise rates in the states. Virginia, which has a plethora, a bunch of them, rates have gone up, electric rates. Texas has a bunch of them. Rates have gone down. So I don't understand why. But that's still being sorted out. Stone County is saying, we're just gonna hold our cards close to the vest and not make a commitment right now. Camdenton and Columbia saying, no, not for a year.
No, the new Florence thing's not only interesting because of the Google one, but across the street, Amazon's proposed another one right there.
Right. Really?
I
hadn't
doubt
heard that.
anyone's ever spent $15 billion in Montgomery County since the existence of the county. That's crazy money.
But that could be a template for these impoverished counties where you go to the town square and there's a courthouse or the county seat. There's a town square, the dilapidated buildings often. I don't know about the county seat of Montgomery. Is it New Florence? I don't know what the
No,
county
it's
seat is.
Montgomery City.
It's Montgomery City.
Isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. I don't know, but often, I know up in Memphis where we ran the hospital and worked and lived there for several years, the nice, county courthouse, but several of the surrounding businesses were empty. There's nothing happening, And I think that's true of a lot of smaller towns in rural Missouri.
Yeah, I've had 2 major jury trials there, and you get to see the hundreds of, people send in their forms. You see their jobs, so you know whether or not there's a conflict with your witnesses or with their parties. And yeah, not a lot going on there. Most people that live there, if they have a good income, they're working outside of that county.
Yeah. So I guess you wonder, I don't know about the operations of these data centers, but I would imagine that, while they're being built, a lot of jobs created, But once they're operational, you're looking at banks and banks and banks of servers.
Yeah, they run with a skeleton crew on most of these data centers.
They have security guards. They'll have computer people. They'll have some middle class jobs there. It's not like it's going to be the new Google headquarters with a bunch of computer programmers in there, but they will have technicians.
Okay, so if you're in Franklin or Boone or Callaway or Cole or Greene or where, if you're in a county that has not yet made a commitment and hasn't had an offer, would it be a net good thing for you? We'll put that on the Facebook page. Would you welcome a data center to your community if it brought an influx of money, and would it be a good thing?
Or just Texas.
800-529-5572, 573-874-9390 if you want to text us. I'm just curious. Where are you? Let's take the temperature.
That's what the Montgomery County Commission said. I mean, they said in their thing, initially they got a lot of pushback about the proposed data center, and then they started filling in the numbers and saying this could be quite the financial boon, and if it doesn't go here, it's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the opportunity cost right there.
Right. Now, there is a lawsuit that was filed in February, and I think there was one previously by various groups, resident groups, landowners that are opposing that. So at the same time that they voted 3-0 to give tax breaks to Google coming in. You have to do that anymore. Those seem to be the rules of the road. If a big outfit's going to bring their dog and pony show and plant their tent and bring their circus to town, they for a long time they want some tax breaks. Okay. And that's where the decision makers need to sort it out. Well, if we give a tax break, what's that going to do to the funding of the schools? Now, in a way, you could argue that a tax break for an outfit that doesn't really take a lot more infrastructure expense-wise on the balance sheet or on the profit and loss of the county, maybe that makes sense. You get a lot of money without a lot of demand for roads and
yeah, so
stuff.
Google is paying for its own power, uses air cooling, protects ratepayers, and generates far more tax revenue than the land produces now. Montgomery County could reasonably see that the benefits outweigh any potential risks or costs. So it's a good economic development opportunity for a net struggling
margin.
county.
Yeah, a positive margin.
And these centers are going to go somewhere.
They've got a proposed complex, Randy be interested to know, in Midtown St. Louis now, too.
Really?
The old armory and the old famous bar warehouse right there.
Oh,
They're
my
talking
goodness.
about turning that into a data center.
Right.
St. Joe has a similar plan.
That's interesting. They had that whole empty AT&T building in downtown St. Louis. They could fill that thing up.
Yeah. Just go straight in and turn on
Then
the
at least
lights.
you'd have some people working down there instead of homeless people breaking in all the time.
Now, Kevin O'Leary from the Shark Tank, I saw him look in the camera and said, "Look, I've had my people look into this, and a lot of the he claims misinformation and the negative narrative about increased electricity cost and water availability and so forth. He says that's being driven by China and other bad actors that don't want to see us prosper."
Wow, I could totally believe that because the water thing, it's recirculating water.
Yep.
Like it's going back into, it's not like it's interfering with, it's a closed loop.
Yeah.
Like it's not interfering, the water writ large, it's being reused again and again and again and again. The same water is and so it's not like there's less water available for other people because
I think
they're reusing the same water that they have.
Right.
I think when Larry Behrens was on with us the last time, we asked him about that water usage, and his take on it was, if I'm not mistaken, that about 3/4 of that water basically used in cooling evaporates and does not go back to the water source.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
I read that this proposed data center doesn't use water for cooling.
Yeah, this is the one at New Florence. Yeah.
Huh.
Of course, how'd that air-cooled VW engine work out for you? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Worked pretty good in
It worked
the Beetle.
for a while, but that's a VW. You couldn't do that with a 12-horse Lamborghini, which is what these data centers amount to, right? I mean, that's a different level of heat generation.
That is crazy about China. I could see that. They're doing stuff like that all over the place. And Troy,
China,
Missouri,
Russia,
remember a couple months ago, Troy, in the April election, fired their whole city council because they had voted for a data center? Wasn't it Troy, Missouri did that? That was wild.
So, and I agree. Lance says, look, tax breaks don't work how they want them to. And I agree. I think it's sometimes a race to the bottom. Cities can prostitute themselves to get someone to move in, but then you bring in a bunch of 100 workers, that means you need to have 100 people educated or their children educated. You need to have the sewers, you need to have roads, you need to have things expanded for whatever but what about the rest of us? Do we get a break? And I think the thing that bothers me about tax breaks, what if Jen and I want to start, the Wake Up crew wants to start an old-fashioned radio shop, and you can get your old vintage radios and vinyl records and VCRs. Oh, they're becoming popular now. And we want to set up a little place on the square. We should get a tax break, too. Why only for the big boys? Why not equity and tax breaks? I'm a populist when it comes to that.
Oh, it was Festus. I think, Rick just texted, not Troy. Sorry, I made a mistake.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. Well, we just have to use our connections to get a tax break, Randy.
No, but I think this is why populism happens.
Yeah.
This is why guys like Graham Plattner are getting, because it's like, darn it, why does everyone else get a break? And I'm the little guy. I can't get a break,
That's
I don't
why
have enough
vote for this income tax thing, because what's going to get taxed probably if this happens, it could have to be lobbyists.
James says and here's a sentiment I think many would say, yeah, I'll consider a data center for cheaper property taxes, but don't think that's how it's going to work out. right?
But it could, because if your county's getting more income, they won't have the need to raise the property taxes if they're making more money off the land in the county.
Well, Mike Murphy was on yesterday, and he really is exposing a lot of the negligence and he says incompetence from, I think that would be the right word to couch that, in his 5-part series on Como Buzz about in Colombia, that they've overspent, and now they're spending down reserves. Well, maybe it's time to look at a data center to make up some revenues that you need to pay the bills.
Maybe sell some of your excess properties so you get more income.
Yeah.
They keep buying up more and more property. Like if you look at a map of downtown and who pays taxes and who doesn't, it's no wonder they keep jacking up the prices down there. Because if the county government and the city government and people that don't pay taxes own too much land, then it's a higher burden falling on the rest of us who do pay taxes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they should sell some of that off. That's my thought. I've had a bee in my bonnet about that one for about.
You worked up on
it. Hits close to home for Jen, doesn't it?
Yeah. I've had a bee in my bonnet for, 10 plus years on that one.
Oh, boy, I tell you. Well, that's...
And they keep doing it. They keep buying more crap they don't need downtown, and then that makes the pressure on everybody else go up.
Yep. Well, this is why the urbanization of America has, I think, overstepped its usefulness. Is it fair to say that? I know there's people that love the cities. My son loves the city. I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know any city that's prospering. They're all the people laying in the streets with needles. And I mean, we see it in Columbia. You see it in Springfield. You see it.
I've not seen someone laying in the street with a needle.
No, I'm okay. But you see it. You see people down and out and laying around the street. You see crime. You see, maybe we need to have proper sized cities, de-urbanize, get people out on the land, get a little exercise, a little fresh air. You know?
You sound like that kibbutz idea in Israel, like they all went back to the land.
Yeah. Anyone disagree with that? What's wrong with a little back to the land movement?
Well, I'd be incompetent at it, but beyond that, I don't know.
Hezbollah might beg to differ.
John, what's coming up when we return?
One for the counselor. Jen, what should be the penalty for the pickleball vandal?
Ooh, I can't wait for that one.
This will be fun. Stay tuned for that story when we come back on Wake Up Missouri.
It's Wake Up
this.
In the Poconos, 31-year-old Saif Kaleem faces charges of criminal mischief, disorderly conduct, and trespassing after vandalizing the pickleball court. Surveillance video from last month shows a couple occasions an individual on crutches entering the park. In one instance, he cuts the net on the pickleball court down.
What?
In another, he enters the court after it closes and goes to work on the surface with what appears to be a fire axe. Police issued a Crime Watch report to ask for help from the community in identifying the guy, which led them to Kaleem. Kaleem admitted his crime, telling officers he did it because his summer was ruined after sustaining a season-ending injury on the pickleball court.
Well, he is banned from the pickleball. You're going to ruin everyone else's summer by ruining the nets because you got an injury? Like, what a selfish jerk.
I think you put him up across the net and get your top 4 best pickleball players and let him serve aces at him repeatedly.
Yeah.
In pickleball, when you serve, if you can hit the partner that you're just not receiving the serve with the ball, that's a point.
Really?
I think if that guy comes back on the court, it's called a nasty Nelson. Everyone needs a nasty Nelson his butt as hard as they can.
So it's pickleball version of dodgeball. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, I wasn't aware that you get points for
rude.
assaulting the other side.
You don't generally want to do it. Some groups, they're funny. They do it.
Yeah,
It's guys doing it to each other. But, yeah, you should nasty Nelson that dude because that's nasty, cutting down the nets because you have an injury. And that's a lot of work if you're on crutches to hobble out there and go cut that thing down.
Do we know anything about the penalty for defacing the pickleball court? I mean, is that?
I'm sure it'll depend on the value of the property.
A misdemeanor or a felony? What could be?
Criminal mischief, disorderly conduct, and trespassing. So it doesn't look like they've hit him with the.
Yeah.
But man, I've been on crutches before. That'd be a lot of work to get out there to do that.
Can you imagine?
Then the crutches are going to give you away. It's going to be easier to identify that person.
Can you imagine how awkward it is, assuming he's not in jail, that he's either a trial is pending or he gets,
Oh, he's not going to be in jail over that.
So picture this, though. So now fast forward to the July 4th family celebration. And everyone's sitting around eating hot dogs, drinking beer, having their chips, playing cornhole. And in walks the guy that defaced the pickleball court, Uncle Joe.
Kaleem Saif. I don't think Saif Kaleem is having a big fourth. Hopefully he is.
Okay,
but
Ramadan, whatever. I mean, even in those circles, isn't it awkward when it's a family gathering and then someone's really gotten their tit in a ringer, right? And you're like, oh man, what are you going to do with that? You got to wonder.
This is like, if I were still practicing, I'd be too biased to take this case.
Yeah.
Like when I was practicing, and the one guy got charged with stealing Trump signs.
Yeah.
I had to give that to my associate because it's like, I don't like you.
You can't take that.
I mean, you deserve representation, but I'm not taking your case.
Talk about
this would be a same thing. Like it's a minor crime, but not one that I'm interested in helping you with, buddy.
By the way, one of our listeners says that he is all about the nasty Nelson, Jen.
Really?
Back in my racquetball days, that's what we used to do. Try to serve the ace unless it bounced first.
You're trying to hit a person with the ball.
Oh yeah, that
isn't
was pretty
receiving
much
the
my
ball.
strategy back in the day.
Is that a tennis thing that you can get a point that way?
Well, it was in racquetball.
Oh wow. Well,
Chris, it's an ace.
This is one area where I have an advantage because I'm a smaller person, so I'm a smaller target.
Yeah.
But the bigger people, if they're not paying attention, you can get them with the nasty Nelson if you really want to.
Chris thinks that you would probably kick his crutches out from under him. Bing! There you go. Just take him out.
Yeah. That'd be another crime, but if I did it accidentally, then is that a crime?
Oh, sorry. I was just going for the ball. Whoop.
Sorry.
Okay,
just...
Back with the last wonderful hour of Wake Up Missouri on this Wednesday. Stay tuned. Oh, I don't know.
Hey, Trump was an athlete in his own right, though. Not to take anything away from him. He was a big deal baseball player at the military college he went to. And then, what was that? Where was he? Was he at Fordham? I think he played on the tennis team at Fordham for a year or two.
There will never be another like Donald J. Trump.
I know. I'm just trying to relish it because we're going to be talking about this the rest of our lives.
He's amusing as all get out. And boy.
Yeah, praise be to Allah.
And you know what? He knows that old axiom that all publicity is good publicity, right? Just look at Graham Plattner. It's true. I mean, he's getting publicity. He's getting props from people that he needs to vote for him. And I mean, within limitations, even negative publicity. Okay, so you don't like the way I go after it. Whatever. You're talking about me. He knows that.
Well, so he might be helping Stephen Smith right now then by talking about him. Mm-hmm. And Joe Scarborough, too. Most troubling thing to me about the Scarborough thing is, isn't President Trump pretty busy? Why is 1 second of his time being wasted by being told or seeing what Joe Scarborough has to say about anything?
I think he has incredible capacity to be situationally aware of more than the average human being.
Oh, for
sure. The guy is unbelievably...
Why waste any of your time or attention on Joe Scarborough? No one's watching that network.
I know. Now, but I remember seeing a documentary, some video clips of around the election in 24 when they're sitting around the table and doesn't he have a gal? He had a gal, a young lady to his right who was tweeting for him, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, she was dictating.
So how many are these dictated tweets? Does he have his thumbs on the BlackBerry or what? I don't know.
I hope some of them might be. Some of them are, but others might not be. Who knows?
They all
like Jen said, right back to the art of the deal.
He
said early on, the deal is my art form.
Yeah, he's good. That's what is happening with Iran. But yeah, apparently he's up all hours of the night and expects his people to be too. We saw Will Sharf out in D.C. He'll call and then he'll call you back at 6 a.m. wanting an update on the thing that he threw at you at his 1 a.m. phone call. Not everyone can go on no sleep, but I don't know if he obviously has to know that. But it's kind of funny. What is it like to work for a guy who works 24/7?
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, we're going to we're going to bring you the CPI report just out. We've got that for May, and the stock market reaction. When we come back on the Morning Bell, boy, there's all kind of stuff breaking here. We'll get it all together and bring it to you in just a few on Wake Up Missouri Market Report coming up.
It's Wake
What are the markets looking like?
Wall Street finished mixed yesterday with a sharp split between old economy stocks and the AI trade. The Dow Jones Industrial Average managed to finish higher, rising 86 points, or about 0.2%, close to 50,872. But the broader market, that was weaker. The S&P 500 fell 19 points, or about 0.3%, closing at 7,386. And the NASDAQ took the biggest hit, falling 251 points, or about 1%, closing at 25,679. So it was another rough day for high-flying AI and chip stocks. Those names started the day stronger, but then reversed sharply lower, dragging down the tech-heavy NASDAQ. This morning, the futures are looking a little bit lower again. Around the time of the CPI release, which we're going to discuss in a second here, the Dow Jones was about 305 points down, S&P futures down, NASDAQ futures down about 179. So investors are cautious, but the market reaction to the CPI, this Consumer Price Index report, so far is not a panic. That's good. The CPI report came out saying that consumer prices rose 4.2% from a year ago, the fastest annual pace in about 3 years. On a monthly basis, prices were up 0.5%. Core inflation, which strips out food and energy, rose 2.9% from a year ago, or about 0.2% over last month. So the driver of that, of course, is energy. Gas and other energy costs, because of the conflict of the Middle East, have gone up, and that's feeding through to household budgets on everything else. And so inflation is not accelerating beyond what the expectations were, but it's still running well above the Federal Reserve's comfort zone. So this makes
be interesting
interest rate cuts unlikely.
Well, politically, though, John, don't you think that the average voter isn't going to look at the core rate and it was below predict? They're just going to say that headline rate, because my Democrat candidate told me, is 4.2%, the highest in 3 years. Don't you wish Joe Biden was back? That's what you're going to hear.
No, that's probably a valid statement. I think we mentioned it yesterday, too. This deal with SpaceX going public on Friday, that could have a whole lot of chip stock sell-off, so people have room in the portfolio for that one. I don't think rule that one out. That's
an interesting point.
It's going to be a big deal.
Big.
You know, actually, if you look at this core number minus what? Food and energy, right? Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
Or gasoline. Food and energy.
Yeah, energy and food.
Okay, so minus that, it actually was a little bit below or at the consensus numbers. So, but I don't think people are looking at that. They're looking at the headline numbers, and they're saying, wait a minute, I was paying 9% inflation under Biden. You told me you were going to bring it down, and now it's 4%. I mean, come on, it's not even close. This is crazy. I can't do it anymore. I want change. Somehow the Republicans have to get on top of it. Donald Trump has to solve the oil problem. I don't want excuses. Voters don't want excuses. We don't want more pay. They're going to pay the price, then we back off. They're going to pay the price. People need to see action. That's what they love about Donald Trump. That's the only thing that's going to bring these prices down. We better take control of the Strait of Hormuz and get the oil flowing. I'm telling you, this is going to be apocalyptic come November, okay?
I think that's why he's like, enough, you're stalling already. We know that you're trying to run out the clock on his presidency. The Iranians are, because he's tough, and he's not taking it anymore. He's like, you guys are too slow. Too much talking. I'm done.
If you were in the Oval Office advising Donald Trump today, what would you tell him in light of these numbers and the midterms on the horizon? 573-874-9390, 800-529-5572. Let us know. On Wake Up Missouri here on the morning market report that the things are looking a little bit rough on the CPI report, at least in terms of the everyday expenses that we have to endure, that is at the pump, and the ripple effects on our very energy dependent and influenced economy. And we asked the question, what would you tell Donald Trump? And Jennifer's in for Steph today. It's overwhelmingly, the consensus is bombs away. One person says, they're basically one way or another, bombs away, get her done, total carnage, show them what hell hath no fury, And one person said, either get it done or be done. Just walk away and let it open. I don't think that's a good policy, because then Oman and Iran will be charging $2 million per tanker passage, right? And then that's a whole other deal. We can't let that happen.
And then that's not a situation that's unique in the world. Yeah,
right.
Straits all over the place, all over the world, and you have free navigation, like the passage navigation rights that's important to maintain that status quo.
He's got himself in a little bit of a sticky wicket, as they say.
Not as sticky as Iran finds themselves in.
Well, I think they're outgaming us at this point. They
can't even pay their military right now.
They've kicked
How
the
long
can
is that going to last?
They've kicked the can down the road 5 months. I mean, it's objectively true that I don't think much is different now than it was before the war, other than they have much less capability, but it ain't zero capability. They took out one of our Apache helicopters yesterday.
Yeah, and they've had, 45, 50 years to build up, and that's what they've been doing. So we took out a lot of it, and not the least of it with the B-2s last summer, taking the strike against the nuke facilities. But they may be down, but they're not out.
You're right.
Yeah, at this point, if you had to go back, was it worth it?
General Jack Keane, who's been beating the drum now for several weeks to say, President Trump, please, let's do this. They're not going to negotiate in good faith, and you have to show them more force and more power. That's the only thing that they listen to. He yesterday said, set a deadline, but mean it and act on the deadline. Donald Trump has set several deadlines and kicked the can down the road. Well, we're close. Remember, I'm not going to let him get away with it this time. On Monday, wasn't it Monday, when he said, very close, we're within days of a great agreement, it's coming. Well, we're now Wednesday. I am a Trump agenda supporter. Let's make that perfectly clear. I don't appreciate being told over and over again, we're there, we're almost there. When there's no objective evidence, we're almost there.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't appreciate it. And for the sake of the movement, I don't appreciate it. It's hurting we conservative brand. When you got someone on your team, that's like if Drake were to continue to, okay, let's say something wasn't happening here. And day after day, Drake, you came and said, don't worry, I've got it. Tomorrow I'm going to have it. Okay, tomorrow comes, nothing's happening. Oh, okay, but give me a little time. And then that day you say, in 2 days, I'll have it. I'm there. I'm almost there. The parts are on the way. They told me they're going to be delivered on Thursday. It'll be done. Thursday comes, no parts. Finally, I'd begin to say, Drake, I can't believe a darn thing you say. So when you tell me you have a guest book for tomorrow at 8:08, I don't believe it. That's the problem.
I feel like you're just airing out dirty laundry here about my producer work.
No,
I'm
making it up. No, you don't. You don't do that. By the way, for all of you who had patience while we had an unavoidable technical glitch, we can't control all of the vendors that are required to bring you, or the hardware to bring you the stream. We had a day and a half stream problem there, but it's back now. Thank you for your patience during that. It's all back. Everything's good. That kind of stuff happens, and we appreciate your grace on that.
Thank you, engineers.
And thank you for engineering. Yeah, that's right. They salute and step forward, and that becomes top priority. But there's certain things you can't control, and we control what we can. But you know what I mean? You get tired of people telling you look, that's the worst form of parenting, isn't it? When you threaten consequences and you don't ever make them happen, or you make promises. I tell you, kids, no. If you bake your bed and cut the lawn and paint the white fence and scrub the porch, we're going to go get a frozen custard. I promise you. They do all of that, and then the frozen custard doesn't come. And then the next day you ask for more in the frozen custard.
That's not analogous. He's saying that we're close to a deal, and maybe they're misleading him into thinking that they are. And then this helicopter goes down. We got a bad CPI report, and he's like, enough stalling. We got to get her done. And they're not, talk about not keeping promises. The Iranians aren't paying their military.
But they're the Iranians.
And the military's kind of a captive audience over there. Where are they going to go?
I expect
they need a check. That is historically throughout time. Once you can't pay your troops, things start falling apart for you.
Look, day after day, if you told me, okay, I've got the morning market report, and then you flub it, and hey, I want to talk about this thing, and then you don't talk about it. And then you say, hey, Randy, would you invest in my company? Or, I want to, hey, I've got this deal.
But those things are all like, it's under my control to do a market report that I failed to do, or you didn't pay your kids the allowance. He's saying, I am negotiating and we are close, but it's not, it's a two-sided deal.
But then I would expect you to come clean with me and say, you know what?
Well, He's like, they keep telling me
that we're close to this, gang, and you can't trust these Iranians, but here's the latest as I know it.
He just did that.
He needs to, I don't know, it's just not working out well. And I want him to be successful. I'm not trying to diss him. I want him to be successful. But we have to call the truth. And the truth is people who support and now past tense supported Donald Trump are wavering in their support because they're getting tired of being made promises that aren't delivered on. So just don't make the promise. Say, look, we're working towards it. I'll let you know when it's signed. I mean, I just don't get it. You get tired of that. Maybe I'm the only one that gets tired of it. You tell me if you're not getting tired of it, if you enjoy that. We've been hearing this song and dance for months. Hopefully he will finally realize these people, you shouldn't negotiate with. The very fact we're negotiating bothers me. We just ought to say, these are the rules. If you don't meet our expectations by Friday at noon, you're not going to like what happens. And then make it happen on Friday.
They have to not continue a nuclear program. They need to give us the nuclear materials back. And that Strait of Hormuz needs to be wide open. Those are the things that need to happen. You can't. How many of them would you kill?
Well, let's talk about the unspeakable.
And how would that accomplish
What probably needs to happen is we need to have boots on the ground. That's what needs to happen to put an end to this. I mean, let's call it what it is.
They had a plan.
No one wants to say it, but that's probably what it's going to take.
Apparently, there was a plan, but it would take 2 weeks. It was messy. It was put before Trump to go in and get those nuclear materials with the Israelis, but it would require boots. And Trump was like, he didn't want to put those boots on the ground.
Well, I, for one, wish that Donald Trump would have gone to Sunday's Testicle Festival in Olean, Missouri.
What? What a segue.
There's not much to the tiny town of Olean, says the News Tribune. Is it Olean or Olean?
Olean.
Olean.
The infamous Testicle Festival.
That's right. 40 helpers and Rana's Hut served up plate after plate of Rocky Mountain oysters, battered and deep fried in custom-built deep fryers. One guy said they're like a fried chicken nugget. Oh, that's the owner. It's crunchy on the outside, kind of like eating a gizzard.
Ew.
Maybe we should have invited the Donald to the Testicle Festival. This thing would be over the next day.
He's been accused of having big ones. He fit right in.
Well, he always says he's got the biggest of everything. Well, prove it, Buster. One Testicle Festival goer said it's just a lot of peer pressure to eat testicles, but other than that, a great time. I've had sweetbreads. Have you had sweetbreads?
I don't believe I have.
Well, we had those out in San Francisco, I believe.
Sweetbreads kind of come from the other end of the calf, but
well, no, that's sweetbreads. No, well, isn't that testicles? No,
that's thymus.
Oh, that's thymus. But it was on the same plate. We had sweetbreads and we had oysters. They were actually quite good.
Julia Child tried to push those. That was her biggest disaster of a show she had during her TV show, The Sweetbreads. They sound so good.
And after I ate them, I enlisted in the Army and wanted to be deployed to go destroy Iranian strongholds.
Yeah.
I only wish I could enlist now. I want to do that. I wonder if I were to really Is there a way that if you want to serve because you didn't serve, that you can serve? There's no way to do that.
You're too old now. They
I
wouldn't
think
take
you
it.
missed I think you kind of missed the window.
Even Eric Greitens, after he was governor, he was having to get an exception.
But what if I met the physical criteria? I think I could do that. I could meet.
You don't meet the age criteria.
Too far outside age.
That's discrimination. I thought we were a performance based, a merit based. If I could run all the runs, do the boot camp, why not?
Them's the rules, Randy. The military gets all kinds of exceptions to those kind of policies.
They say at the Pentagon, there's a federal stock number and a waiver for everything.
Well, what if I just identified as 25?
Hunter Biden got one,
I identify as 25.
Briefly. When he was like 49 or something, but that was pulling some major strings and they were mad about it. And then he ended up with crack or something, so they pulled it from him. Remember that?
Yeah.
He was like 49 or 48 when that was going on.
One of our listeners says, bomb, 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 Iran. Play some of that, Randy. It's easy for us to say that. We're not military strategists.
But there's Persian people that really don't want that regime in power over there anymore than we do. And
that's the problem.
You got to think about their lives.
They don't have the means to fight the RGC.
So if they get their freedom back and they get a real democracy, they need to have gun rights this time, okay?
What if we just had pallets of weapons on parachutes and say, hey.
That was one of the plans.
Get out in the streets and do that.
Yeah, I was listening to this thing. That was one of the plans, too, that they could have done to try to help with the, weakening or overthrowing the regime was arming the Kurds.
Yeah, but then apparently the Kurds didn't. We tried to do that, but they took away with the guns. I heard that on one report. I don't know.
And the CIA's been the one who's actively worked with the Kurds.
Where's Oliver North?
Or the Kurds didn't give them to the citizens or something. I don't know.
Where's Oliver North when we need him?
Noriega? No, isn't he in
Sandinistas? No, wasn't it? I don't know. Was it? I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. We've gone and not solved another big problem, but we try. Thanks for all of your interactions on the text line. That's great. And for listening on Wake Up Missouri, Jen's in for Steph. We'll be back with some leftovers in just a minute. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Look, Larry Behrens is on deck. He's going to be filling in for Gary in just a few minutes when the Gary Nolan show comes over. And we were having this discussion about the Middle East and Iran, and Larry had texted on his way into being on deck, hey, but gas prices are down 37 cents. So I walk out into the green room. I say, what's that all about? He says, you'll have to listen. I'll tell you. So I don't know. We'll have to listen and see. I don't know.
That's news to me.
I said, Larry, you're supposed to tease the audience, not me. No,
he wants you to listen.
He actually has a pretty cogent idea for that. But he says, so Randy, you're off the Trump train. I'm like, no, Larry, I'm not off the Trump train. Picture the Trump train as now encountering a lot of sharp bends. And I'm on the Trump train with Trump is taking the train in a lot of erratic directions, and I'm hanging on by one arm to the back of the train, trying not to be thrown off of it because it's so erratic. So I'm still on the train, but I don't want to be thrown off by erratic moves. So there, we'll see if Larry has an answer for that when he comes on with the Gary Nolan show coming up. You have a leftover. Jennifer is in for Stephanie. You hear her on Gary's show on Tuesdays and on her own show on Sundays as well. She's in for Stephanie. What do you have for leftover?
Well, it's not about politics or tariffs or gas. Well, it's kind of involved gas.
No
the
testicles?
Hot Rod Power Tour is celebrating Route 66 100th anniversary this week, and it involves thousands of vehicles. It's making stops today. It's in St. Louis. Tomorrow, it'll be at Missouri State University in Springfield. Thousands of hot rods, muscle cars, and street machines. And Route 66 nostalgia. So what would you drive of those three things? I didn't know this, but okay, so a hot rod is an older car, pre-war or early post-war, modified for speed, looks, or both. So a muscle car, that's like a mid-size American car from the 1960s or early 70s with a big V8 engine.
Oh, yeah.
Pontiac GTO, Chevy Chevelle. Dodge Charger, Plymouth Roadrunner, those kind of things.
Oh, baby.
And a street machine is a modified street car from the muscle era or later, built to be driven on public roads, but upgraded heavily for performance and appearance, like the Camaro, Mustang, Nova. So what would you drive? Text us.
I don't know either.
Of those three kinds if you
one of the
were on
last
this
two,
show.
either a muscle or the upgraded muscle. I don't know. I think a muscle car probably.
So if you're going to be in St. Louis today or Springfield tomorrow, you can check out 6,000 of these puppies barreling down in celebration of 100 years of Route 66.
Ooh, let's hope the hail in the forecast does not materialize.
That's
These
for
guys
sure.
with their fancy cars there.
Yeah.
I remember the old Route 66 driving out to California with my mom and dad back in the day.
Oh, fun.
For sure. Yeah, we all did that.
And man, we went there was this little place, this little Mexican joint where all of the locals ate in Tucumcari, New Mexico. And we always have to hit it. I remember the Coke refrigerator in the side, and it was just the best authentic food. It was awesome. John, what car would you choose if you were going to?
Well, I'd like to have back my 71 Torino GT with the 351 Cleveland 4-speed.
Oh, my. You could crawl in those babies and put the points in the plugs. Remember the timing light? You had to get the timing all right in those babies?
This was it was a hot rod.
Yeah. You didn't get in any trouble with it, though, did you?
You couldn't catch me.
What do you have for leftover?
We got some great news for Chiefs fans. Chiefs announced they are signing veteran cornerback L'Jarius Sneed to come back to the Chiefs. It's a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. You might remember him from the first two Super Bowls and spent his first NFL seasons with the Chiefs and saved our butts in that AFC playoff game and got us into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's true.
What year was that? 2024? Heck, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, good news for the Chiefs.
Yep.
As long as they stay in Kansas City, we'll still root for them. Maybe. Hey, that'll wrap it up. Thanks for being in today.
Thanks
we'll
for
see
having
you
me.
on Friday, right?
I'll be back
on
Friday.
All right. Steph's back tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Let's see if the president delivers on his promise this morning to make them pay because they're not negotiating. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.